Privileged to introduce our next speaker. Our speaker is Sister Peggy O'Neill. In her 2012 commencement speech at Canisius College, Sister Peggy O'Neill said, "I am deeply grateful for their affirmation of my many years living and loving as a sister of charity, the last 25 of them in a tiny, wounded country, El Salvador, where my heart has been broken open to love more, a place where I continue to get glimpses of the promised land." During her time as a member of the pastoral team in Santa Lucia, Paris, Suchito, Tutu, she served as the director of Centro Arte para la Paz, the Center of Art for Peace. Her love for peace led her to promote it by using arts as a vehicle. Sister Peggy is a proud Marquette Golden Eagle, having earned her Master's of Arts degree in theology there, as well as her doctorate in education and religious education from NYU.
As if she needed no other affirmation of her dedication to celebrating a broken people's dignity, Sister Peggy is the proud recipient of the 2008 Peacemaker Award of the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. In 2008, she received the Ciudadana Ilustre Award for her incredible work on behalf of social and cultural development in Suchitoto. Her voracious appetite for life has led her down many paths, where she was consistently exposed to incredible amounts of hatred and happiness. For her, love has and will always prevail. Here to break our hearts and open them to love more, please help me in welcoming Sister Peggy O'Neill.
Wow. I just want to thank you again for your testimony. I'm still moved at the both of you, whether we're talking about being on the border or finding ourselves inside the border and still hurting. But just thank you for inviting me. I'm honored. I'm happy to be here. To put it very succinctly, I teach in the other school of the Americas, El Centro Arte para la Paz. We teach for peace, we don't teach torture. So, and the Salvadorans have transformed my life and helped me return to myself. That's why I was so moved. How do we help each other return to our own humanity, you know? Together, the Salvadoran people have taught me to imagine a circle of compassion with no one standing outside of it. So that's why I'm so grateful to be here, because, yes, it's the first time at one of these Jesuit teach-ins. That's why I didn't know to bring a joke book. But many of you, faculty and students, you have already visited El Salvador. You've served us. You've learned our story. You've allowed yourselves to be touched by the memories of our martyrs, by our determination not to let our fears overcome us and never to be without hope. And tonight is that night. Tonight is that very night when silence pervaded at the UCA, at the Jesuit University, when they dragged the next morning, probably about now, those murdered Jesuits and their housekeepers. So it's a very important night for all of us, no? Yes, I do feel part of the Ignatian family. I did get my master's in theology at Marquette. I was honored by Canisius College in Buffalo. But I also teach at the Casa de Solidaridad program at the Jesuit University. This is a program that has awakened me and my students to what it really means to be a human being. From the perspective of the poor, we have rediscovered the need for a new kind of civilization, one of simplicity, austerity, rather than excessive abundance. This program gives us hope that a humane civilization can be made concrete by considering first the community rather than the individual. More about that later. And I also feel part of the Ignatian family. We finally have a pope the world is really listening to, who happens to be a Latin American Jesuit, who speaks about and shows mercy, and speaks about and lives austerity. So I am happy to be part of this family. You congregate here with hundreds of others who share the same majors, know about Ignatian spirituality, recognize names like Dean Brackley, Martin Barro, Ignacio Ellacorria, and you revere discernment. Yes, there are so many things you have in common, coming as you do from your AMDG backgrounds. When I was a little girl, we wrote that on the top of our papers in school, AMDG. I had some classmates who wrote JMJ, and I thought, they don't know Latin, AMDG. But when you leave this teaching, all of the positive, palpable, shared energies and experiences from this gathering, when you are heading back home invigorated, you need to remember that despite so much in common among you, there is one thing you have no one else has. Yes, you are and will be the only person alive who has the sole custody of your own life, your own entire life, not just your study life or your work life, not just your stock portfolios, your bank accounts, or the life of your mind. I am talking about the life of your heart, the life of your soul. I am talking about your deepest center. People don't talk about the soul much anymore because it's easier to craft a resume than it is to craft your spirit. But a resume is a cold comfort when you are sad or lonely, or when you get news of a lump on your breast. You can Google for an answer, you can Google for a mate, for a career, but you can't Google to find out what's in your own heart, the passion that lifts you upward. You have to listen to what is inside yourself and discover your own fire. Not only do you need your own fire, but so does the whole world. Let's get started. Let me share a few things that we can marinate in briefly. First, if your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. Let's take a few minutes to dream big, dream large. Imagine this old nun named Peggy. I'm glad I wasn't a Dominican. I'm glad I wasn't a Franciscan. So I wasn't in any of those funny stories. But this old nun named Peggy wants to invite you. No, I want to challenge you, dare you really, to get a life. And I want to challenge you, I want to dare you to be midwives or mid-husbands. Okay? Get a life. a real life. Remember, even if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. A real life. Not just the manic pursuit of the best grade, the best point average, the next promotion, the larger house, the greener lawn, the bigger paycheck. Listen, folks, I am sure no one ever said on his or her deathbed, "Oh, I should have spent more time studying or more time at the office." Get a life. Get a life where you are not alone. Find people you love and who love you. And remember, love is not leisure. It's hard work. Every time you look at your diplomas, and I'm sure there will be many, remember, you are still a student learning to treasure your connections to others. So pick up the phone, kiss your mother, hug your dad, write a letter. Learn the richness of pregnant silence when you are with a lover. Get a life in which you are generous. Give yourself away. Bless others like Jesus did with the very substance of your life. Get a life where you see the real, the withinness of everything, where you take risks, make mistakes, in fact, make interesting mistakes. Get a life where you're always like a bride married to amazement. A life where you are a bridegroom taking the world into your arms each day. Feel that life force within you and within the full moon, the butterfly, the raging river, your newborn. Check out the fuzz on her ear. Marvel at his tiny fingernails. Yes, get to see and meet the withinness of everything. Your lover, yourself, your wisdom sources, the holy books, the pain, the suffering, the lethal absence of hope, so many places, the wars, the poverty. Really see and touch the withinness of everything. Chet Ramo is a professor emeritus in physics at Stonehill College in Massachusetts. In his book, Honey from a Stone, he says, and I paraphrase, "All our knowledge is but a tiny island in the sea of mystery, and we must extend the shores of that island so more mystery can lap up on the beaches. We must keep asking the questions, keep searching, keep discovering, keep staring, keep imagining different solutions to problems in society. Solutions closer to the dream of God." The beauty of the unconscious is that it knows a great deal, and it does know that there is always still more, and all words will fall short. Yes, be willing to take a long, loving look at the real, to look and really see the inner meaning of the universe and human life. Remember, what we grasp gives us knowledge. What we let grasp us gives us wisdom. Get a life. In fact, pig out on life. This is not a dress rehearsal. Pig out on life. I also invite you, I dare you, to be midwives, to assist at the birthing of a world long emerging, but clearly off course. Lend your hands and hearts and reshape how this planet is cared for, how it can continue to support life, how we can truly recognize our connectedness to each other and all life. I dare you to be midwives of solidaridad, solidarity. You can Google that word but I think a story better defines it. One day I was escaping from oncoming military government forces in El Salvador. I happened to be in an area called Peggy. And I had gone out to this little village because I got word that a woman had been raped. And so I went out to tend to that case, and the plan was for me to return to Suchitoto in the morning with her and go to the hospital. But that night we got word that military troops were coming through. And so everybody in that cluster of people decided to get on the back of a pickup. No, it wasn't a pickup, it was bigger, back of a truck, and leave before the military came into the area. Well, I went to Catholic schools, and of course we had fire drills, and when anything like that happened, you just went. You left everything, no? So I didn't even bring my backpack. I just got on that truck. And most everybody got on the truck with nothing, except when it got time for us to move, we were going straight, and I think the truck driver probably saw headlights from military trucks. And so he turned left on what was not a road. So sooner than later, we were over a little barranco, a little, I don't know what you call it in English. Anyway, we went off the road. And so what happened was everybody ran off this truck and scattered in a large area of tall grasses, zacate. And I wound up with another woman who had a little baby. So she did bring the canister or the basket. And the other woman had nothing like Peggy, and the three of us ran together with the baby, and we were chit-chatting for a long time, worried, sharing. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, it does get chilly in even El Salvador, so we were huddling closer together. And that's when the woman with the baby decided she would change the diaper. So she opened the canister, the basket, and she took out some rags to change the baby, but she also took out a stack of tortillas. Well, I'm a nervous eater, and I was nervous. I was hungry. And I saw those tortillas with great joy. As soon as she took out the tortillas and uncovered them, the other woman, without anything like Peggy, said, "Oh no," she said, "we can't eat your tortillas. We don't know how long we'll be here or how long it will take us to walk to wherever we're going." And the woman with the tortillas, immediately after this gesture, she went, "Oh no," she said, "tonight we share our food. Tomorrow we share our hunger." I said, "Oh shit, I'm staying here." I've been in El Salvador for 27 years. There were a few "oh shits, I'm staying here." Will you midwife economic systems that are built more on solidaridad, solidarity? I have a Mexican friend, Hilda Laros, who at a call to action conference last year defined solidarity like this: la ternura entre los pueblos, the tenderness between people. Solidaridad, the tenderness between people. What response does seeing human suffering demand of us? Will we awaken to the perception of scandals, the scandal of hunger, the scandal of planned lack of education, excessive violence, the corruption and impunity of so many institutions? if we do not perceive the scandals, we will never act. We must see and feel the pain to want to do the changing, like you did at the border. You saw and felt the pain. If we want to be a part of the new birthing, we must feel the pain. Those most quoted words of the Declaration of Independence, would that it read, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaningfulness, the pursuit of truth, the pursuit of justice, and oh yes, happiness will follow." As Toni Morrison has remarked, personal success devoid of meaningfulness, free of a steady commitment to social justice, is more than a barren life. It is a trivial one. It is looking good instead of doing good. Think about a meaningful life, not just a comfortable one. Are we ready to admit that we have trespassed on the fullness of mystery, the fullness of God, by trying to lock God into a religion, a book, a gender? Will we try to midwife new metaphors for the creative energy and power that continues to invite us to renew the face of the earth? Will we try to use our creativity, which is a renewable source like love, use it to find creative ways to nourish and sustain our spirits? Remember, the imagination is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies. Will we midwife and swim in a spirituality birthed out of the awareness that we truly praise God when we build right relationships with people and all other species on this planet, and that sin is destroying right relationships? Who is our neighbor? The Good Samaritan? Yes. Salvadoran immigrants? The starving children in Darfur? The many women who endure violence? Yes. And the whale, sea turtle, the bees and the butterflies. Oh, how we have come to see the vastness of creation and its real connectedness, its real relatedness. We must read our faith stories in new contexts and see and feel them emerging, being liberated with new meanings emerging. The 4th century doctrine of the Trinity. I wish I had 45 hours. They gave me a half hour. But anyway, the 4th century doctrine of the Trinity. How I have been called to it lately and stand in such awe. Imagine these early Cappadocian fathers struggling to speak about God after Jesus, and remain monotheists. They express mystery as love expressed, received, returning, transforming, connecting, expanding. What insight! All is birthed and connected and held together by this loving movement, this incessant verb. It is the life force of everything. In effect, these early fathers say, God is what God does, love. I am so grateful that I have lived long enough to see this doctrine of the Trinity emerging, opening up like a beautiful flower. For too long, the story of God was reduced to simply 3 in 1. Listen to the North American poet Emily Dickinson. I think the book is called The Book of Roses, but the poem is called The Trinity. Here's what she says. In the name of the butterflies and the bees and the breeze, amen. So I say, in the name of the Jesuit martyrs, the Jesuit family, and the Salvadoran people, amen. In the name of the citizens and the senators and the Congress people, amen. We all do belong to each other, and the creative force you and I call God is responsible for it. It is what connects everything. Ivone Guevara calls God the sap of life, the life force of everything. Will we let this disturb us? Call us to see a real responsibility to treat everything with tenderness. Live in real solidaridad. Wake up from our isolation and our inhumanity. To be Catholic is to live in conscious evolution, to be engaged actively in this unfinished universe as co-creators of justice, peace, mercy, and compassion. Catholic is less what we are, more what we do. Catholicity is a virtue of relatedness, a dynamic energy of whole-making, of solidaridad. Will we deal with the myth of scarcity that pervades the West? And from where I live, I would say the North. We have been trained to believe in scarcity as not enough time, not enough money, not enough bandwidth. All of this is so they can tell us we need more of everything. So we will buy more, have more. We need to midwife a new way of rethinking scarcity, something Lynn Twist calls the greater truth of sufficiency. Imagine 1 billion people, billion with a B, 1 billion people go to bed hungry each night, and there is enough food right now to feed us all. The truth is, we have enough grains to feed us. I have experienced some real scarcity. I remember during the war, we only had 2 buses in this little town. It was a terrible war zone where, by the way, I met Francisco. Well, first we met in a refugee camp, but we had 2 buses. Your guitar player, Francisco, he has CDs out there. You might want to buy books and CDs. I don't have books, but I have Francisco, a buddy. When I met him, there was a time I said, shit, I'm staying here. We had 2 little buses, and they would go to the Capitol and fill up whenever they could go, because we had a lot of landmines that kept the buses from coming and going. And they would fill up at the market in the Capitol, and it was a social event. It was lots of fun. Actually, we all went downtown to see what we could buy the next couple of weeks. And I saw a banana fall out of the bus. I don't know whether it was on the roof, I don't know whether it fell out the window, but it was on the ground, and I watched a little boy and a goat go running after the banana. I was rooting for the boy, and he got it. And I remember saying, oh, thank God. I watched this little boy with a big smile start peeling the banana, and he started walking. And then he returned because there was an old man sitting on the curb. And I watched that little boy give the fruit to the old man and he ate the skin. Now, I never knew you could eat the skin of a banana. Well, I went running after him because I wanted to look into his face and see the face of God. And he was going like this because chewing a banana skin isn't easy. And I said to him, "Was that your father?" And he said, "No." "Was that your," he was, and I said, "But you gave him the fruit." And he took this wad out of his mouth because he had to speak, and he said, "I think he was hungrier than I was." And he put it back, and he went off and chewed on his banana skin. We do have to rethink scarcity. Dare we think creatively? Maybe our world leaders need a baby on his or her lap when they are deciding our futures. Maybe we should surround them with photos of suffering peoples and have them not come to some decisions dry-eyed. I asked the Ministry of Culture in El Salvador to give me the salaries of 2 soldiers for the salaries of 2 music teachers for my peace center. I promised them we would evaluate and see what worked better for gang prevention. Violins against violence makes more sense to me than guns against anything. You have so much energy. You are just so happy, so alive. It's almost looking like at a visual symphony. It's just keep up your energy. Don't amputate your creativity, your ambitions, your possibilities. You must risk. So go peek around corners. Travel to stare at other cultures. Sometimes Detroit is another culture. No? Stare at other cultures, other kinds of scarcities. Go to those places where there are palpable longings for justice and peace. Places like El Salvador, the Philippines, Africa, Detroit, Chicago. But go. Meet and befriend women who are willing to live each day to kill death and are willing to die each day to give birth to new life, to peace. Touch those realities that are painful to see. Stare at how humane humanity is. See the real sin of whole peoples on crosses. Awaken to the reality of an oppressed and subjugated world, a world whose liberation is the basic task of every human being, so that we all can finally become human. Living and working in El Salvador with students in the CASA program has awakened all of us from a deep sleep. It has awakened us from the notion that our wisdom sources, our scriptures, do not need to be reinterpreted. On the contrary, they must come alive. They do need to be reinterpreted for us. It becomes quite clear to all of us each semester that truth, love, faith, the gospel of Jesus, God, the very best we have as people of faith and as human beings, these are somehow to be found among the poor and in the cause of justice. Our experience in El Salvador has peeled away layers of skin like sunburn. It has shaken us up to the fact that we don't want to let ourselves admit that we all have something to do with bringing about a crucified world. Remember, our minds are like parachutes. They only function when they are open. Pause and check in with yourself. Create healing spaces for others who suffer from those of us who deny the scandals, those of us afraid to midwife, those of us afraid to make changes in the structures. It is one thing to take people down from their crosses, but we must also ask ourselves, how am I complicit in building crosses for others? If you think you are too small to be effective, you have never been alone in bed with a mosquito. Adrienne Rich, the poet, just died a year ago. She left us, or left me, with two haunting questions. She asks, with whom do you cast your lot? From whence do you draw your strength? I suggest you write to your friends at least once a month, texting those two questions until they're 90. With whom do you cast your lot? From whence do you draw your strength? Whose are you? To whom do you belong? If we are to midwife, to give birth to new ways of belonging, and to change structures in this global world, we need buddies. Even Jesus needed a gang. I needed hundreds of sisters of charity, thousands of students, and now mi pueblo, the poor and resilient people of El Salvador. I am almost 75, and with the help of all these people, I'm still trying to become a better version of myself, a more human Peggy. Pay attention. This is an announcement. If you want a creative gap year, you know, if you don't get a job or you're not sure what's next, or faculty, maybe you are going to retire or take a sabbatical. Our doors at Centro, Arte para la Paz are always open to volunteers. You can belong to us as we try to create a culture of peace using the arts as a vehicle in the small town named Suchitoto, a place that was for so long a war zone. There are so many needs, so much trauma. Suchitoto can be one of those places where you discover your deepest center serving others. The people will break your heart open, and you will love them for it. And to you students who are still poring over the books, I invite you to consider a semester studying and working with poor communities in the Casa de Solidaridad in El Salvador. You will let layers of skin get peeled away, layers that keep you from really seeing what it means to be human. In the CASA program, you might be brave enough to begin to feel the pain of the world and let your hearts be moved to compassion and mercy, favorite words of Pope Francis. You will discover in El Salvador that the world is one gigantic cross for millions of innocent people, and we need to take people down from them. In El Salvador, many patterns of the jigsaw puzzle of life, they begin to crumble, and we begin to imagine new patterns. We become aware also of the sin of inhumanity, inhumanidad. Soon, I will be called an ancestor. But until then, I want to continue to wonder, to struggle, and to grow. I don't want to die before the last day of my life. I look at you today, and each year, so many of my own students, and I know I can die with a smile on my face. I'm convinced that most of you are ready to pick up and run with this gift of being human. You are ready to get a real life. You are ready to be midwives and help engage in what Joanna Macy calls the great turning from empire to earth community. In the end, it is love that matters. We need a thoughtful love, a wisdom that sees and knows more deeply, a faith that trusts in the power of God who lives beneath our wings. Ours is the age of something radically new. It is more than a reformation. It is an evolution in love, in solidaridad. What a cunning God this is, who hides in lepers, in all the rejected, and who appears as a poor carpenter turned preacher. Gratitude arises to be alive at this moment, when for all the darkness coming upon us, blessings abound. These blessings help us to stay alert and be steady. Look, you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. U-Haul truck. Don't they have them anymore? I don't watch Colbert, but I remember U-Haul trucks. Okay. You never see a U-Haul behind a hearse. What we carry with us are those moments of oneness and our connections with all that is alive, all that we have birthed and nourished and loved. So anchor yourself in what is right, what is true, loving and kind, and give your one wonderful, unique, wild, and precious life away. Yes, become someone liberating this world from the slumber of inhumanity. Remember, call me if you're looking for a gap year or a sabbatical or a place to study that has you peeling away layers of skin that protect you from your real inhumanity. If you want to get a real life, if you want to experience real connections, call me. I'll pick you up at the airport. Thank you.